The morning was quiet, too quiet for a burial day in Abokpo village. Even the birds seemed to sense the heaviness in the air. A thin fog rolled over the red-dirt paths that led to the family compound of Chief Obina, the great hunter and village elder whose death had struck everyone like thunder on a clear sky. They said death came for him in his sleep, peaceful, they called it. But those who saw his face before the coffin was sealed whispered that his eyes were half open, as if they still searched for something beyond the veil. His daughter, Ngozi, stood near the entrance of the compound, her eyes swollen from sleepless nights. She was 23, young and strong, but her heart felt older than the earth beneath her feet. Her mother, Mama Eda, moved around quietly, wearing her black mourning cloth, instructing the women who had come to help. The sound of distant drums echoed through the air, slow, deep, and mournful. The coffin lay in the center of the compound, carved from the best wood, decorated with nkoli beads and palm fronds, symbols of honor for a man who had lived a brave life. But as the crowd gathered, Ngozi couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The old priest, Papa Azu, approached, his white chalk markings glistening under the sun. He sprinkled nzupada around the coffin, murmuring prayers in Igbo that sounded more like warnings than blessings. Then he looked at Ngozi for a moment too long and said softly, "A restless hunter does not stay in his grave. May your father find peace where his feet could not take him." Ngozi's heart skipped. "What do you mean, Papa?" she asked, but the priest only smiled faintly and continued his chant. When the coffin was lowered into the ground, the women wailed loudly, and the men fired 3 gunshots into the sky to honor the fallen elder. Dust rose, mixing with the tears of the family, and for a moment, it seemed as if the world itself was mourning with them. By evening, the crowd had gone. The compound grew quiet again, except for the crickets that sang into the night. Ngozi sat under the old udara tree, staring at the freshly covered grave. She could still hear Papa Azu's words echoing in her head. Her mother joined her with a lantern, its flame flickering in the wind. "My daughter," she said gently, "come inside. You've been out here too long." Ngozi sighed. "Mama, do you think Papa is really gone?" Mama Eda hesitated. "He has gone to rest. That is what we must believe." But when Ngozi turned to look at her, the older woman's eyes betrayed a flicker of fear, as if she didn't quite believe her own words. That night, the rain came suddenly. Heavy drops pounded the zinc roof, drowning every other sound. Ngozi couldn't sleep. Her father's voice seemed to echo faintly in her dreams, calling her name from far away. Then she woke up. At first, she thought the sound she heard was the wind. But then she heard it again, 3 slow knocks on the wooden gate. "Con. Con. Con." She froze. Her heart raced. "Mama," she whispered. "Did you hear that?" Her mother stared. "It's just the rain," she mumbled, half asleep. But the sound came again, louder this time, "Con. Con. Con." And then silence. Ngozi got up and peered through the window slats. The compound was empty. Only the rain fell steadily. She wrapped her shawl tighter and returned to bed, telling herself it was her imagination. The next morning, she found muddy footprints near the gate, bare footprints, too large to be hers or her mother's. "Someone must have passed here in the night," Mama Eda said uneasily, trying to sweep them away. But when the broom touched the prints, the soil refused to move. It was as if the earth itself had sealed them in place. Later that day, Chaik, Ngozi's childhood friend, came to check on her. He was a tall, cheerful man, but the moment he entered the compound, he grew quiet. "Ngozi, I had a strange dream," he said. "Your father was standing near the gate, calling your name." Ngozi's skin prickled. "Don't say that, Chike." He frowned. "I'm serious." He was wearing his hunter's leather bag, the one he was buried with. She looked toward the grave and whispered, "That's impossible." That night, the knocking returned. The same pattern, 3 knocks, pause, 3 more. Con. 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 Ngozi lit her lantern and tiptoed to the door. "Who's there?" she whispered. Silence. Then, faintly, she heard something that froze her blood, her father's voice, low and hoarse, whispering her name. "Ngozi, open the gate." She dropped the lantern, and it shattered, spilling light across the floor. Her mother ran out, clutching her chest. "What is it?" "Mama, someone's at the gate." "I heard him." Her mother's eyes widened. "Don't ever open that gate after midnight. Ever." For the rest of the night, they stayed awake, praying and whispering psalms. But deep down, Ngozi knew something was terribly wrong. When dawn came, she stepped outside. The ground near the gate was damp, but the footprints were there again, fresh, deep, and leading away from the compound toward the forest. And for the first time, she noticed something strange. Each footprint had a faint glow, like embers dying in the dirt. She turned to her mother, trembling. "Mama, what if Papa hasn't gone?" Mama Ada looked toward the forest and whispered, "Then may the gods help us all." The wind blew softly through the trees, and somewhere in the distance, a lone horn sounded, a hunter's call that hadn't been heard since the night Chief Is died. 3 nights after Chief Is Obina was laid to rest, Abokpa village was still heavy with silence. The drums had stopped. The mourners had gone. Only the sound of crickets and the distant cry of a night owl filled the emptiness. But inside the Obine compound, sleep had become a stranger. Ngozi sat beside her mother's bed, a kerosene lantern flickering softly beside them. She hadn't slept since the first night she heard the knocking. Her eyes were red, her voice faint, but her heart was wide awake. "Mama," she whispered, "what if Papa's spirit is not at peace?" Mama Ada, who sat with her rosary clutched tightly in one hand, said, "Your father was a good man. He paid his debts. He wronged no one. Let us not bring curses with our tongues." But even as she spoke, her eyes darted toward the window, toward the wooden gate that creaked softly in the wind. The first knock came just after midnight. Con, con, con. It was soft, measured, and steady, like the rhythm of a heartbeat. Ngozi froze. Her mother's lips trembled as she whispered a short prayer. "Chinik, not again." They waited. The rain had not fallen that night, so the sound was clear, too clear. Con, con, con. Ngozi reached for the lantern and whispered, "Mama, I'll go and check." Her mother caught her hand sharply. "Don't. You don't open the gate for spirits. You don't answer them when they call." "But what if it's someone from the village?" "Then they will call in the morning," Mama Ede snapped, her fear barely contained. The knocking stopped. Silence. For a long moment, the only sound was Ngozi's breath and the faint hiss of the lantern flame. They sat in silence until dawn, praying and listening. When the morning sun rose, Ngozi went out carefully, holding her wrapper tight against her body. She pushed the gate open slowly, and gasped. There were fresh footprints again, large and deep, leading straight to the compound gate. But this time, the earth around the print was slightly burnt, as if the ground itself had been scorched. Ngozi fell to her knees and touched one. The soil was cold, unnaturally cold. She ran to Chike's house before breakfast, her voice trembling as she explained what she had seen. Chike frowned. Footprints. Burnt ground. Ngozi, you need to rest. You're grieving. I'm not imagining it, she snapped. Come and see for yourself. Reluctantly, he followed her. When they reached the compound, Chike saw it too. He crouched beside the prints, frowning. These are real. Too big to be yours or your mother's. But they lead to nowhere. Look, they stop right here. He pointed to the last mark that ended abruptly before the forest path. No return prints, no trail. Then Chike, who was known in the village as a small-time filmmaker, brought out his phone. Let's try something. Tonight, I record what happens. If there's knocking, we'll catch it. That night, they waited. Ngozi, Mama Eda, and Chike sat in the dark with the lantern turned low. The clock ticked softly. At exactly midnight, the knocking began. Con. Chike started recording, his hand shaking. Then the sound came again, closer this time. Con. Mama Eda began to chant softly, calling on the ancestors for protection. Ngozi's heart pounded so loudly she could barely hear herself breathe. Then, in the middle of the recording, a faint voice whispered, so soft, so close. Ngozi. The sound was unmistakable. Her father's voice. Chike dropped his phone in shock. Ngozi screamed and ran to her mother's arms. The gate rattled violently, then stopped as suddenly as it had begun. When they played back the recording moments later, the knocking was there, clear and heavy. And after it, the same whisper again, slower this time. Ngozi, open the gate. Mama Eda threw the phone to the ground and shouted, enough. This is not of man. It's not your father, it's something wearing his voice. That night, no one slept. By morning, Chike had gone to fetch Papa Azu, the priest. The old man arrived with his staff of cowries and feathers, his wrinkled eyes filled with understanding. I warned you, he said quietly. Your father's spirit cannot rest because the covenant he made still binds him. Ngozi blinked. What covenant? Papa Azu drew symbols on the ground with chalk. Years ago, before your father became chief, he saw protection in the forest. He met the spirit of Ayani, the keeper of the earth. They made a blood pact, your father for his prosperity, and his lineage for the land's peace. But the gods do not forget promises, child. When your father died, he was meant to return something. What? Ngozi whispered. The priest looked up slowly. His shadow. They stared at him in disbelief. He continued, the shadow carries a man's essence. If a man bound by the forest dies without fulfilling his oath, his shadow rises to seek what was promised. Chike swallowed hard. So the thing knocking at night. Papa Azu nodded grimly. Is not your father. It is his shadow spirit, bound to his promise. And it wants what was left undone. Ngozi's body trembled. What must we do? The priest leaned on his staff. You must find where your father's oath began. The forest shrine. That is where this story ends, or it will never end at all. Morning came slowly to Abokpa. The mist clung to the trees like secrets refusing to be told. Roosters crowed, but their cries carried no warmth. In the Obini compound, Ngozi sat quietly by her father's grave, clutching the talisman she'd found in his hunting bag, a charm of red cloth and cowries tied around a small stone that seemed to hum faintly in her hand. Papa Azu's words from the previous night replayed in her mind like a haunting melody. Find where his oath began, the forest shrine, or it will never end. She knew what he meant. Everyone in Abokpe knew about the forbidden path, a narrow, overgrown trail that led deep into the Aya-Oni Grove, where even hunters dared not go. Her father used to warn her never to step foot there. That place doesn't belong to us, Ngozi, he used to say. The forest listens. And it remembers. But now, she had no choice. That afternoon, she went to Chag's house. He was sitting under a mango tree, trying to fix a broken camera lens. When she told him what she planned to do, he dropped everything. Ngozi, are you mad? That grove is cursed. Even the priests don't go there anymore. I'm not asking you to follow me, she said softly. But I have to go. My father's soul won't rest until I know the truth. Chag sighed deeply, rubbing his face. You won't go alone. If I let you disappear in that forest, I never forgive myself. She smiled faintly. Then we go together. By evening, they reached the edge of the forest. The air was still, too still. The smell of damp earth and palm leaves hung heavy. The path ahead was narrow, lined with ancient trees whose roots curled like sleeping snakes. Chag turned on his phone's flashlight. I swear, if anything moves, I'm running, he muttered.